You put $1 trillion into Bitcoin, that's when you might see it at $60,000 to $100,000 valuation. And those funds don't care. Once they index it, they're the automatic bid when it dips below the 50 basis points or 1% they've decided to own, and they sell into strength. So there's a really, really liquid market about to happen. That's very optimistic for Bitcoin, not pessimistic. I really don't understand when people say, oh, I hate regulation and decentralized asset. You want regulation because that's where the money is.
Hey guys, welcome back to Library of Wealth. Today we have American investor Kevin O'Leary giving us his take on Bitcoin and the future of the crypto market. O'Leary says that crypto policies, even just on Bitcoin and Ethereum, will bring in capital. He's seen that sovereign wealth wants Bitcoin and the volatility that it brings. O'Leary knows that when regulations are put in place, Bitcoin's value will skyrocket and the price will easily reach $100,000. Sovereign wealth has very decentralized assets in their portfolios, and because of this, indexers will want to purchase Bitcoin as well. Let's check out this interview with Kevin O'Leary as he talks about Bitcoin and the effects of the upcoming crypto policies. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content we do here on this channel. Let's get right into the video.
It's been a very difficult time for every asset class. Regarding Bitcoin, though, our own operating procedure, we can't own more than 5% of the operating fund in Bitcoin. So we also have positions in ETH and Solana and all kinds of other, we're just looking at putting a position on in Pollen and Helium, which are really eclectic projects around decentralizing telco. But the whole point of this is that you just simply don't know when these asset classes are going to move. I have a personal speculation around regulation. I talked about that earlier, that if the Stablecoin Act gets put into law, that will be a signal that all crypto will be regulated at some point. Some people feel good about regulation, others don't. But here's a fact to consider regardless of your position. Most of the sovereign wealth funds that I work for as an indexer have zero position in crypto of any kind. When you ask them if they're going to buy anything, they want the granddaddy, which is Bitcoin. They're willing to put 50 basis points to 1% into Bitcoin when their compliance departments allow them to. And that won't happen until the SEC rules on it as a commodity or a security. And the reason they can't is that these sovereign wealth funds, I don't care if you're Norway or you're UAE or you're Saudi, the majority of their money is put into the S&P. It's the only market that can absorb $1 billion in one trade without moving the market. And that goes in at around 10:05 every morning when these sovereign wealths take their 250 million that they make in oil each day out of New York. These transactions, remember, oil is transacted in US dollars, and they put it into an index of the S&P, X oil, X airlines, because they own their own airlines and they have enough oil, obviously. But the reason they won't buy Bitcoin is they can't go uncompliant with the SEC. Here's a question for every investor to think about. There's a risk in investing in Bitcoin and all crypto. There's also a risk of not investing in it, because if it's true that it becomes the 12th sector of the S&P in the next decade, some of the value in financial services stocks, like banks, like money center banks, are going to transfer to these new technologies, and you simply don't know when that's going to happen. So my thesis is you should have some crypto in your portfolio because you don't know when that's going to occur. And if you completely don't have exposure to it, you may miss participating in the growth of this 12th sector of the S&P, which would be a bad outcome for performance.
How much of your portfolio is currently in crypto?
It was 20% before the correction. It's now 16.2. We monitor it every day, just like we do stocks. We're having a very hard time with our auditors and internal compliance people because it doesn't act like an equity. It doesn't act like a bond. It trades liquid 24 hours a day. So mark to market means nothing at 4:01 in the afternoon. So we're constantly monitoring that.
O'Leary says that the reason why he is currently long with Bitcoin is because he has 20% of his working company's assets in crypto distributed throughout 32 different positions. O'Leary has seen a massive amount of interest in this strategy. In the short term, the demand is for 2 to 3% portfolio average. The benefit of being long on Bitcoin before a regulation is released is the indexing. This is because demand for crypto will be unstoppable in sovereign wealth and pension circles.
So given that, we have a lot of different positions, and we just put capital to work in Miston last week. that project that came out of Facebook. We're always looking for new projects because we simply don't know which ones are going to survive. But we don't need them all to survive. We just need a portion, just like venture investing. But crypto is going to cause a lot of disruption, in my view, in financial services, which is a large sector of the S&P. So if you don't invest in it, you also have the risk of missing that transition. Let me suggest a different reason to start going long Bitcoin, which has nothing to do with foreign currencies, but a lot to do with policy in the United States. There's two bills floating around, but let's talk about the one that has the chance of actually getting passed in the US after November 8th, which is the midterm elections. It almost went to markup last week. It's called the Stablecoin Transparency Act. Now, this has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but it has a lot to do with the tone of regulation. And the reason I think it's interesting is they're trying to solve for the challenges that occurred in these collapses of stablecoins that were built around algorithms. 62 billion got erased. The regulators got upset about that, although the majority of that capital, because it was decentralized, was in other countries. But this act is very simple in nature, which is why it may pass. It's being supported by both parties. And the reason that's the case is that it makes effectively the US dollar the default payment system worldwide. So if you have USDC or any other stablecoin that's backed by the dollar, and the test to get it regulated is very simple. You're going to get audited every 30 days. It has to be backed up 1-to-1 with a dollar or a treasury bill. All the treasury bills backing the coin or the token have to have a duration of less than 12 months. And if you're willing to go through that scrutiny, they'll issue you a license. Now, if that were to happen, and it may happen very quickly after November 8th if the House flips, and that's the anticipation is House flips, nobody knows what's going to happen in the Senate, that's a coin toss. But even though it has nothing to do with Bitcoin, that'll be the first regulation passed by US regulators. And I would argue you want to be long Bitcoin going into that outcome. So if you own stable coins, you're going to see a lot of interest in institutional capital coming into, let's say, USDC and Circle. Regulation comes, Bitcoin goes up. And I agree with your thesis that it's a good asset to have if you're in a country where your currency is collapsing. But if institutions smell policy, then you've got a real move up. And that's when you break out of this $19,000 to $22,000 trading range against the US dollar. I think it goes right through that very quickly.
O'Leary has noticed that the UAE is placing crypto regulations and permitting exchange licensing. The UAE will not be making this a requirement for their sovereign wealth until the SEC makes its next move. O'Leary says investors need to quickly establish their position in the industry or the market will forcibly move against them. He sees massive potential in a few crypto positions, especially in Bitcoin and Ethereum. We'll be keeping an eye on the SEC's next move and how fast this adoption of regulations is put forth. What do you guys think about Kevin O'Leary's position on Bitcoin and the direction he sees the crypto market going in the next few months? Comment down below. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.